All right, good afternoon. I see some people coming in. Fantastic. What a day it is. As y'all are coming in, we're so excited that y'all are here today. Thank y'all so much for being here.
All right. Yep, everyone's trickling in. Thank you, Adam, for that. Good morning, everyone, as you trickle on in. On behalf of CACRAO, just want to thank you for joining us for the virtual college exploration for all North and South Carolina students. Just a few housekeeping items. Of course, you have some great panelists in front of you today, and you may have some questions. So you're going to use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions, okay? Be sure that you're using the Q&A to insert your questions, and you can ask them at any time during the presentation. Also, your camera and microphone are going to be off. So of course you can hear and see us, but your camera and microphone can stay off for the duration of the presentation. Next, be sure to sign up for any additional sessions. A lot of your panelists today have been doing sessions all week, so they're very excited to share great information with you all. So please visit the CACRAO website to sign up for additional sessions. And lastly, I know that you're going to have a lot of information during this 45-minute time frame. So if you need to go back and listen to the presentation, the recording will be available on the CACRAO website. So we want to make sure that you have all of this information at a later date. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and turn it over to our awesome presenters today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for that. We are so excited to talk with y'all today about how many schools should I apply to? So this is a question that I get a lot from my students, and the goal of this presentation today is just to kind of give you a rough estimate on, one, how many schools should you apply to? And then two, when you get these schools, when you're looking at all of them, if it's a big amount, how do you go down from there? How do you narrow from 20 to 10 to 5 to 1? What are the factors you need to take into account? So I hope this information sits with you well, but obviously first you're going to want to know who's talking to you today. So we are so excited to be here with you. My name is Adam Chilliwatt. I'm a Mercer admissions counselor at Mercer University. If you do not know where Mercer University is at, we are a small private liberal arts college located in Macon, Georgia. If you know where Atlanta is at, we're about an hour and a half south, so smack in the middle.
All right, April, I thought you were going to go next, but I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Ani Subotic. I am a senior admissions counselor at Winthrop University. We are located in Rock Hill, South Carolina, at a medium-sized campus, about 6,000 students, just across the border from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Everyone, my name is April Nicolai. I am from East Carolina University. I'm a regional admissions counselor, so I'm actually located in the Charlotte area, but ECU is located in Greenville, North Carolina, and we are a public institution in North Carolina.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiona Thompson. I'm an admissions counselor at Erskine College. Erskine is located in Due West, South Carolina, so we're close to the Greenwood, Greenville, and Anderson area. We are a private Christian liberal arts college.
All right, well, thank you guys again for joining us. I did want to say if you have any questions at any point in the presentation, please feel free to write them in the Q&A section, and then we will get to them at the end of the presentation. So if you think of a question, just go ahead and ask it. Your questions are anonymous, so if we do see your question and we decide to read it out loud, we will definitely not say who it was, we'll just read your question. All right. So first things first, a little bit of background before you actually decide to apply to any colleges. You definitely want to know the difference between the types of colleges that you are applying to. So we have two-year institutions and four-year institutions, and here are the kind of differences between them. So typically your two-year institution, if you complete the program, you do get an associate's degree at the end. And a lot of students that decide to go the two-year route end up transferring to a four-year university to earn their bachelor's degree. So the 2 years pretty much can happen before you go continue your education at a four-year institution. So some examples of two-year institutions are, you refer them either as community colleges, technical colleges, even military junior colleges. Those are types of two-year institution. And the different types of degree you can get are called Associate of Arts, Associate of Sciences, Associate of Applied Sciences. So those are the differences. And of course, your four institution is where you earn your undergraduate bachelor's degree. And some type of examples to call these institutions are, they're referred to as colleges, universities, technical institute, agricultural and mechanical, and your degree is called a Bachelor of something. So a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Social Work, Bachelor of Sciences. So it really depends on what field you're going into. And just also, you want to definitely, before you look at the colleges that you're thinking of, you want to understand the process for the admissions process for each university. So not all universities expect the same thing to complete your application. For example, some just require a transcript and it's test optional. So you may want to submit your scores, but it's not necessary. Some require high school transcript and test scores as well as a resume, letter recommendation, or essay. But not all schools accept these things or require these things for admission. So you definitely always want to make sure you meet all the requirements and you get whatever institution is asking for. But you're typically going to see your general admissions are high school transcripts, your SAT or ACT scores, always official, and additional documents, which is typically your letter recommendation, a personal essay, or even a resume. So those are the three that you typically do see in most universities. But then there's addition, and also what you want to know are the decision types. So for example, rolling admissions, this is, for example, what we practice at Winthrop. We do not have an application deadline. We review students all the way until the very first start of the year in August. But there's no, that is technically the cutoff, but you can apply at any point in the year. Waitlist is when you are, there might be at capacity and they're still reviewing applications and figuring out who they are going to accept, or until a room opens up, you are waitlisted. And then you have early action and early decision. This is typically if you apply by a specific date, you'll find out by a specific date. And typically those sometimes are binding as well. So you want to make sure to keep an eye out for that. If you're not 100% committed to university, you definitely don't want to do one of those deadlines where you feel like once you get your admissions offered that you have to accept it and go to this university. So those are just some type of the things that you definitely want to look out for and prepare for already ahead of time before you even start to consider to applying to universities, to make sure you have everything in order. All right, and the next slide.
So now we're going to transition and talk about some of the important factors to consider when choosing colleges. So these are some things that will be helpful for you guys to consider. So definitely your intended major. So if you know what you want to major in, make sure when you're doing your college research that you look and see that they have your desired major. It is okay to come into schools typically undecided, but it is really helpful to have an idea of some of the majors that you may be interested, so that you're choosing a school that has those options for you. Another thing to consider is major transition flexibility. So if you were to start in a specific major freshman year, will you be able to change into another major if you change your mind? So looking at that, as well as the number of major options. So checking how many majors that an undergrad or that an institution has, and seeing if there's multiple options for you. There may be some additional applications for majors, so be on the lookout for that. And then again, going along with that number of major options, this is great, especially if you're looking to go on to grad school. For example, if you want to go to medical school, typically you can major in anything in undergrad as long as you get those prerequisites. So having those major options is great. Next, looking at the location. Where is the institution located? Is it in a college town, a mid-sized town, or a larger city? Are you looking to go closer to home or farther away? And then looking at the size. Just because an institution has a larger enrollment, so that could be the total enrollment, that could also include students that are in their master's and doctoral programs. So keep in mind that all those students may not be on campus at one time. That's why it's important to ask colleges what their average class size is or what their student to faculty ratio is, because some institutions may be larger, but once you get into those major classes, you're still going to have that smaller average class size or smaller student to faculty ratio that you're looking for. Other things to consider would be the cost. Are you considered an in-state student for tuition, or are you considered out of state? Looking at the difference between those two. Also looking if you're eligible for tuition reciprocity. So what that means is if you don't live in that state, you may be considered an out-of-state student, or they may participate in tuition reciprocity, meaning they give you an in-state rate or a large scholarship for being a state over. So that's something to consider. As well as athletics. Are they Division 1, 2, or 3? Are you looking to participate in sports, or would you prefer to kind of just do club or intramural levels? So club level, you still may compete against other institutions, but it's not going to be as much of a time commitment typically that a Division 1 or 2 school is if you're competing at that level. And then do they have intramural sports? So if you just want to compete against other students in your favorite sport, that might be an option for you as well. And then considering your priorities, what is important to you? Again, these are just some general important factors to consider, but you have to make a list and figure out what's important to you and what you're looking for.
All right, so now that we've looked at important factors, I want to talk a little bit about the different categories that the schools that you are applying to may fall under. So how many should I apply to? Well, the good amount that you should apply to is about 5 or 6 schools total. And with these schools, you know, there are different categories that they fall under. So a safety school for you would be a school that is 90% chance of admission. It is a school that you exceed the GPA and the test score requirements. This is a shoe-in for you. This is an undermatch. This is a school that you know you will be able to get into. A match school for you is a school that is 40 to 70% chance of admission. This is when you meet the GPA and the test score requirements. This is a just right school. This is a good match, a perfect match for you. And then you have a reach school, which is 15 to 40% chance of admission. You rank slightly below the GPA and test score requirements. And this is what you consider a dream school. This is an overmatch for you. So with your safety schools, again, that's a school that you know, okay, if I have to choose a school, I know that I can get into this school, no problem. With the match school, it's like, okay, this is a school that is right there with my requirements. This school might challenge me, so I know I will be able to handle the curriculum, and I know this would be like a perfect match for me. And then for a reach school, that's a school that, okay, I really, really want to go here, and this is my dream school. And, you know, it might be a little off reach, or it might be, you know, over where I'm going, but hey, I'm going to apply anyway, and I'm going to try.
So now that you know how many schools you should apply for, and even if you're not at that 5 or 6, if you're looking, you know, 10 to 15, I had a student last year that was looking at over 20. Everyone has their kind of different pace, how many schools they're looking at, and they also have their own process of how you want to narrow it down. But I just wanted to give a couple of tips on some things to take into account when you're looking to narrow down your search. So a lot of this is going to be what April talked about, looking at your priorities. What are some things that you're fixating on that matters to you? But first of all, I want to talk about when should you start that narrow down process? When is the right time to do it? Senior year, please. And so starting earlier than later is fine, but if you are kind of in your senior year and you're still looking at 20 or more, maybe you want to look at maybe less than 20. So digging into that, maybe end of fall, early spring is a good time to look at it, focusing on your priority, your top schools, you know, maybe your safety, reach, and match schools to where whichever one is more fit for you. You're also going to want to take into account how much financial aid you have from that school, what kind of scholarships you've received. You want to visit these schools. So any schools that are on your list, if you have over 10, under 10, above whatever number you're at, try to visit as many of these schools as you can. I know with everything that's happening right now with COVID and that, it might be a little more difficult. So reach out to your schools that you're looking at, reach out to your counselors, reach out to us. We want to get you the help you need. So that way you can know, are you doing physical visits? Are you doing virtual visits? What opportunities do I have so that I can start this narrow down process? So obviously you're going to want to first look at your priorities. And so if we go on to the next slide, looking at what type of things matter, because your factors and your priorities do matter. And so if you look at this chart over here, it'll tell you what's important and what's not. Take a picture of it. I promise you it will come in handy. Do not go where your best friend is going unless it's a great fit for you as well. So looking at the cost, that's also going to be important. Looking at your financial aid estimates. Are you looking at in-state, out-of-state schools? What kind of tuition is there? Just because the school tells you what their sticker price is does not mean that's what your net price is going to be. So keep that in mind as well. You might think, oh my gosh, it's $40,000 a year for this private out-of-state school. Well, little do you know, the moment you submit an application, you might already be getting a $15,000, $20,000+ scholarship a year right off the bat. Half of that sticker price is now gone. So if you have those kinds of questions, ask your counselors, because you'd be surprised at what types of ways you can break that cost overall down. And also keep in mind, you're not just looking at going to this school for 1 year, you're looking at going into it for hopefully 4 or maybe more if you're looking to do a graduate program. So when you're taking into a cost account, don't think, yeah, I could do it this year. Could you do it next year, the year after that, and the year after that? Making sure that it's financially feasible for you. That way you're balancing your cost and investment in that school. Second of all, again, looking at location. How close or how far away do you want to be from where you're living at? Do you want to go to an in-state school? Do you want to go to an out-of-state school? Do you really have a preference? Do you maybe want to go across the country for school? Is location something that's really important to you? So weigh the cost benefits of it. Obviously, driving to and from home, gas is important. If you want to be in a place where you're closer to family, that might be something you could take into account as well. So definitely looking at cost, location. This chart is going to be really important in order to figure out those two things specifically.
I did just want to add on to Adam, because he did say about visiting. I know right now visiting, I mean, for example, some schools are open for smaller in-person visits, really restricted, very socially distant as well. But a lot of schools have always had or just introduced a virtual tour. So always, if you don't know where to find it on the school's website, just reach out to the admissions office. They're going to provide you with the link. A lot of the time, they're very interactive. You feel like you're in a virtual reality session. You know, they show you the inside of residence halls, 360-degree views, as well as videos and additional pictures you can see. So definitely, if you're not comfortable touring in person at the moment, definitely look out for those virtual tours.
Yes, virtual tours are very helpful, especially if you feel like you want to visit the school, but it's far away. Maybe the timing is just not right. Definitely, if you don't feel maybe comfortable yet reaching out to your counselor, you can always go to the website, go to the search bar, type in visit. You'd be surprised how many helpful things come up when you type into that search bar, but use us as well. We are your most personable search bar. So reach out to us too, please. And then lastly, looking at the program quality. Just because they have the program, the major you're looking at, is it a good program? Are you going to get internship opportunities? Are you going to get research opportunities? Are you going to get a job afterwards? So looking at what types of enhancements that university has for that program versus one school or another. So you might say this school A has biology, so does school B, but they may do it in 2 totally different ways. You might have 2 entirely different experiences. Is the school you're looking at bigger or smaller? Do you get to connect with your professor? Are there tutoring opportunities? Are there research? Are there study abroad, program abroad opportunities? Just because they had the program doesn't mean it's automatically the best one out of all the schools that you're looking at. So be sure to, again, reach out to us, reach out to your counselors, get connected with a student, professor. That way you can kind of see, okay, well, you have psychology, but what can I do with the psychology degree at Mercer, at Winthrop, at ECU, at Erskine? What kind of opportunities lie within that program? So reach out to us with that, looking at the opportunities, what organizations does that school have, what internships, research, etc. And then lastly, find what you want, not what every single other person in the world wants for you. So it's all coming down to what is your personal best college fit, not what mom or dad might want, not what your best friends are telling you to do, not what your teachers are telling you. Really kind of dig in, get to know yourself throughout this college search and find out, what do I want in a college? Am I just going off of what other people want, or am I really looking at what is my personal best fit? That's my biggest advice for it.
All right, thank you, Adam. And before we get into the question part, we're almost done with the presentation. But we all 4 of us here were at some point college students. we're at some point high school seniors figuring out what to do. So we're just going to quickly share our stories, what helped us, what we looked for, what we prioritized. Of course, as you can imagine, we all have different backgrounds as well. So, you know, maybe our stories will actually help you figure out what to look for. So Adam, I believe you are first.
I will go first. So I only applied to 2 colleges when I was in high school. I was a first generation college student, so neither of my parents went to college. It's not that they didn't want to help me through the search, they just didn't really know how. And so that's why our job is even more so important. If you feel kind of lost and you're wondering, reach out to us. Because I mean, I only applied to 2 schools. I applied to one in my hometown that I knew I would get into. So an easy school, like Tiona talked about. So a school that I knew I could get into. That way, if I didn't get into the reach schools or the other schools, I had something to fall back on, even if maybe it wasn't my top choice. The other school was the school I went to. And so it was in a place that had a good location. It was exactly where I physically wanted to be. It was close to home. I had family there. It had the program I was looking for. So those are things that I took into account. I wanted to stay close to home. I didn't really care about the programs of that school that much until I got there and realized the value that that school could offer me with a specific program. So I really just lucked out. So don't be like me. Make your own luck, do the research, make sure that program is good before you commit to it. And then lastly, I wanted a smaller school. I wanted something that was similar to high school where I wasn't in a lecture hall of 300-400 students. I wanted something more personal. Not saying that's what everybody needs, but it's preferably what I wanted. I wanted to be able to connect with my professors. I wanted to be able to connect with a student in the classroom. I wanted to be able to have that smaller, 15, 20, 30 classroom setting. And I wanted it to feel like there was a community around that. So on-campus opportunities, volunteer opportunities, intramural, club sports, on-campus jobs. Money's nice to have. So having those opportunities were something that was really important to me when I was doing my college search way back in the day, a couple years back.
All right, so my college story is a little unique and different from all the other presenters. Instead of applying to 2 to 3 schools, or like I said, 5 to 6 schools, I applied and got accepted to 22 schools. I got accepted to 19 historically Black colleges and universities, and then 3 predominantly white institutions. Again, I don't go out and apply to all these schools, but how I was able to do this was I was a part of an organization called Campus Connections, where it was a Christian organization that allowed students to travel along the East Coast and tour all the HBCUs along the East Coast. But when I went through the whole process of applying and getting accepted, and I got ready to make my decision, I narrowed my search down to 5 schools. And my key factors for me when I made my decision was the type of school. I chose to go to a predominantly white institution. I chose to come to Erskine College. And location was really big because I am family oriented. I wanted to be close to home, but not too close to where they can pull up like right whenever they wanted to. So I was 2 hours away. Size was also very important to me because when I came to Erskine, we only had 600 students in all. Now we have 800. So I wanted something really, really small so I can get that community feel and feel like I'm at home. And cost was a major thing because I was able to get a lot of scholarships. It wasn't a lot of out-of-pocket costs for me and my family. So when you are looking at a school, make sure that you look at a financial aid packet and you see, okay, how much money will I have to pay once I graduate?
So for my college story, I applied to 2 colleges. I was an athlete, so I swam in college. So that was a pretty big focus for me along with the major. Those were probably the top 2 things when I was looking. So during my college search process, I contacted a lot of different coaches talking about my times and athletic history first. And that kind of helped me narrow down to which schools that I was interested in. I went on 2 recruiting trips. And then those were the 2 schools that I ended up applying to. And then both of them had my major, of course, swimming. The location was important to me. I actually am originally from Illinois, and I didn't apply to any schools in Illinois. I only applied to schools in North Carolina because I was ready to leave and go far away. So that was really important to me. And then size, looking for more of a smaller campus. And then cost as well, being like if you go to a public or a private institution, just looking at the cost difference. Just because you're an in-state student, if you go to a private institution, typically it's the same cost for everybody. That general sticker price is the same cost. Scholarships and whatnot could change it. And then involvement, I have on there, I was an athlete, I was the founder and president of Marketing Club and a student recruitment ambassador, so I helped out in admissions. So just because you are an athlete and competing in Division I sports doesn't mean you don't have time to take advantage of other opportunities and resources on campus. So keep that in mind as well.
All right, thank you guys. Now it's time for my college story. So mine is also very different. I was actually an international student. I applied from abroad, so I didn't get to visit. And when I applied, like 11 years ago, there was no such thing as a virtual tour. All these programs and softwares to allow students to virtually visit the campus weren't a thing. So I couldn't even get to really see much of campus except from the Google search images I could find. So I applied to 2 colleges. The things that were important for me, obviously coming from an international background, I really, really wanted a diverse school. I didn't want to be one of the only 5 international people on campus. I went to international schools growing up, so I kept on seeing different cultures in my classroom, and I wanted to keep that the same. So diversity was a big factor for me. And I also, as you can imagine, growing up in different countries and going in international schools, my classroom sizes were already really small. So I already had that personal connection with each of my professors. And I wanted to keep that during college too, because, you know, if I'm in a room with 100 people and, you know, the professor doesn't know my name, I don't have that self-motivation that some students do. I need the professor to be actively engaged in all of our, you know, classroom settings. They know who we are, they know our history. So I needed it to be personable. Cost and scholarships were a big thing for me. As an international student, because I'm not a US citizen, I do not qualify for financial aid in terms of FAFSA. I legally can't get any funding through that. So I definitely was looking for schools that were offering great out-of-state scholarships. That's why also one of the reasons I decided on Winthrop was because they offered me a scholarship where the out-of-state tuition fee got waived and I got in-state tuition, which was about a $15,000 difference a year. So that was a big difference for me. And of course, I was looking to make sure that whatever I studied would be accredited. Coming from an international background, I wanted to make sure the university I studied was internationally recognized. So if I were to ever go back home, my diploma would be recognized. And location for me also, believe it or not, played a big factor. Even though I grew up in capital cities all my life, I was always on the outskirts. So I was used to living near a big city if I wanted to be part of a big city life, but also just a little out of it, that I still have my peace at night, that I don't wake up to like traffic in the middle of the night. So location was a big thing for me, which is another reason why I decided on Winthrop as well, is because it's close to Charlotte, but not too close where I'm stuck in the rush hour traffic. And of course, when I was on campus, I was actively involved with international things, as I am now as well. I was an international ambassador and an orientation leader, as well as an admissions assistant. So I definitely like the fact that I could actively get involved on campus, and it helped me meet a lot more people as well. All right, well, these are all of our stories, and that's pretty much our conversation. Our presentation. Now it's time for questions. I know we have some in the chat, so we'll get to those first. And if we don't have many questions in the chat, we do have some questions prepared that we'll just read out loud in case it's something you didn't think about. We'll definitely go ahead and just answer it for you. So if you guys want, we can look through your questions and unmute ourselves. We won't share the name, we'll just share the question. So I guess I can take, I think the very first question we got was, is there such a thing as applying to too many colleges, say 10? Tiona, I guess you can answer that one.
So there isn't such thing as applying to too many colleges, but applications they cost. So if you are, paying for all of these, make sure that you limit the amount just so you're not having to dish out so much money. Now there are fee waivers. Schools do run quote unquote specials. So Like it could be a time where they offer a fee waiver code, and that's when you can go ahead and apply as well. But there's no such thing as applying to too many schools. But again, just make sure that you're not spending a whole lot of money applying.
Yeah, and also what Tiona said about certain schools have fee waivers. A lot of schools will accept the SAT or ACT fee waiver. So if you have an SAT or ACT fee waiver, and that's when you basically take the SAT or ACT for free, all you have to do is submit proof of that, and your application fee will be waived. During the fall, certain colleges, most of the, for even Tiona probably knows, in South Carolina right now, we have college application month going on. So most of the colleges either provide a fee waiver or they're automatically free. Winthrop's is free until November 1st, regardless, as long as you do it through a website, not the Common App. So just keep, if you're not sure, if you can't find that information anywhere on the website, that's where we come in. So always reach out to us and say, hey, do you have any current promotions or free waivers right now that I could use to waive my application fee? So always look for that. All right, the next question, I guess I can go ahead and answer this one because it is about international. So if I'm an international student, how many colleges should I apply to? So this really depends on you. I just picked the two because for the first one I picked Winthrop. My brother was already here, so that was just like a given. He talked about it so much. And then I applied to Boston University, which is really different, which is, you can imagine, completely different in terms of climate, location, and size, because I wanted that mix between the two. But those are the only two schools realistically I was looking at. But I would still encourage you to look at, like Tiona said, between 5 and 6 schools. I know international application fees sometimes are a little bit more expensive. So if you pick your 5 to 6, do your research and then narrow down to maybe applying between 2 to 4 colleges. And just before you apply, always reach out first to see what kind of scholarships are offered for international students. It's a little bit different for international students in terms of funding. So that would be your guiding factor, is see what kind of scholarships they're offered before you spend your money on your application fee. All right, and then can you only apply to one school for early decision since it is binding? I feel like I've been talking, so I'll let someone else answer this question. Does anyone from the panel want to answer this one?
I can answer. So with early decision, I like to tell students that the D is demanding, which means that if you apply early decision, you can only apply to one school with that tag. So you can apply to other schools, but you can only apply to one school early decision. And if you do apply early decision, that means that you know for a fact that you want to go to that school, and that if you do get accepted, you are going to that school and it is binding. Early action is non-binding, rolling is non-binding. I might be regular decision is non-binding, but early decision is binding. And I also saw a question in there that says, does Erskine have a fee waiver? We do. Just reach out to me and I'll be able to give it to you. Yeah.
All right, we had another question, which is similar to one we answered, but we'll repeat it just in case. When applying to schools, did you guys find any issues with applying, say the cost of applying? Did you guys utilize opportunities such as free application week or FAFSA? So when I applied 11 years ago, fee waivers weren't as common. This, I feel like, has been more common the past 5 to 6 years. But of course, had there been any opportunities where I could have waived my application fee, I would have grabbed at the opportunity. I would encourage you to as well, especially if it is a college that you are interested in. Utilize any chance you get where the application is free. Like I said, right now, particularly in the fall, since it is the time to be applying, most universities do offer some sort of fee waiver, or it's automatically free, and that's where you always reach out to the admissions office. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to turn down free things, so definitely utilize that. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Adam.
If the application is free, you have no reason not to apply, is what I tell my students. If I'm giving you the application fee waiver code for us, we have one as well, so reach out to me if you want to apply to Mercer. But if it is free, take it, take it, take it. And obviously just filling out applications is also just a great experience for you. So that way you know what to expect from a college application.
And I was just gonna mention also, besides the ACT and SAT fee waivers, some schools will accept the NACAC fee waiver as well. ECU is one of the schools that does that. And for North Carolina, the free application week will be happening in October, and you will only apply on CFNC for different schools that are part of that, and ECU is a part of that.
Also, April, you did mention the NACAC fee waiver. That is through as well. And for, in addition, there's also the TRIO program. Some schools do offer a fee waiver if you participated in TRIO in high school. You just need to submit proof. So that is also another way you can get your application fee waived. But like I said, always reach out to the Office of Admissions just to make sure what is available. Some even offer fee waivers for veterans or, you know, children of veterans. So there's just so many opportunities depending on the school. So do not be afraid to reach out. They're always going to be happy to help. All right, well, those were the questions in the chat box for now. Before we get to because we about have 9 more minutes of this presentation, before we get to the questions that we have actually structured for you guys, I'll quickly skip ahead to the contact slide so you can all take a picture of our contact information. That way we're not cut off and you guys don't see it. So I'm gonna skip over the questions. Oh, there we go. So this is all of our contact information. If you are watching us from your phone, take a screenshot. If you are on your computer, pull out your phone and take a picture. This whole video will be available in about a week on the CACRAO website as well. But definitely, if you have a question for any of us, and you can't wait a week to find us, which of course I really wouldn't want that to happen, please take a picture of this. I'll wait about 2 more seconds before I go to the slides that we have prepared for you guys. All right, awesome. Well, if you missed it, just let us know in the question box and we will go back to the slide. I guess we can work our way back. So the first question, what is the difference between early action and early decision? So I feel like we kind of covered that, but I will, if anyone wants us to go over, just let us know in the chat box. So when will I find out if I am accepted? That is a very, very good question. Similar to when you have to submit your application by, if there's a deadline, they typically also, universities have times and specific dates where they will let you know of your decision. If you can't seem to find it, email your admissions counselor. They will let you know. For each school, it's different. For example, for Winthrop, if you apply by November 1st, you'll find out on December 1st. If you apply after November 1st, you'll find out February 15th. And then after that, it's just rolling on a bi-monthly basis. Did you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on the school and what their dates are. Even though ECU runs on rolling admissions, we typically give an admissions decision 2 to 4 weeks once you've gotten all your supplemental items in. So it really does depend on the school. Again, contact your admissions counselor to check on your status. And a lot of schools have like a separate portal as well that you can check your application status in. So definitely encourage you to check on those, especially if you're missing any items. Usually there'll be a notification in there for you because we would hate for you guys to miss out on any eligibility deadlines or things like that. So make sure that you're on top of your application and the items that are required for it.
All right, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you guys. All right. Oh wait, didn't we just, okay. When should I have all my applications in by? All right, I've been talking a little too much, so I'll let someone else answer this question.
Sure. I would recommend everyone's different, but some students that I worked with this past year submitted their applications in May or June. Sometimes they might start a little late, but I recommend getting ahead of the game. The reason is the earlier you apply, the more opportunities you know you're eligible for. So something April hinted at, if maybe there's a specific scholarship competition only in November, but you wait to apply until January, you might have missed out on something you were eligible for. Or maybe there's a deadline, and if you apply by this deadline, you might get invited to a scholarship competition, or maybe there's an outside scholarship deadline or this and that. I recommend if you have the time right now, and if you don't, I encourage you, try to make some, but submitting your applications as early as possible preferably by the earliest deadline that the college has, if they have one, or if you just have already started it, just go ahead and get done with it. It's one less thing you have to worry about. It's one less thing you have on your plate. Once you submit all your applications, then you can focus on which schools you're going to focus more on afterwards. So earlier is better. I know for us, we have specific scholarship deadlines. We have specific scholarship competitions. We have different visit days that may only happen in the fall or the spring. And with other colleges, they may do something very similar. So it's important to get them in as soon as possible. That way you have all the opportunities present to you to make a holistic decision on where you're going.
Yeah, and to add on to that, just how, there are specific deadlines by when you have to submit your application, or if there's early action, early decision. There's also different universities differ in when they open up their application. So just because one university is open pretty much all year doesn't necessarily mean it's the same for each university. So be mindful of that so you don't fill out the wrong application. I have seen that before. I have students that wanted to apply for next fall and actually ended up applying for this fall, but they're still a junior in high school and there's all this confusion. So definitely be mindful of which application is available. If you don't see it online when you're filling it out, if you don't see the term that you are interested in, that means it's not available yet. And if you want to find out, just reach out to your admissions counselor or the Office of Admissions. All right, how many types of schools should I apply for? That's a good question. All right, who wants to answer this one?
I guess I can start. It all depends on what type of school you are interested in and you want to apply for. You have technical schools, you have PWIs, like I said, you have HBCUs, you have private, you have public. It all depends on what you want. And so that just depends on how many you apply for. Just when you make your list, when you go through and you collect all the information, you find out your match and fit and what you want, then you know what type of school you should apply for.
Yeah, just to add on to that, also looking at what your career goals are as well and where you want to go in that career. I think that's really important. That will help determine what type of school that you're looking for, because if you want to be, for instance, a mechanic, you may not need to go to a 4-year institution. You could just go to a 2-year technical school to get a degree for that, and then kind of do like an internship or a work study type thing with a mechanic. So that's something to consider, as well as what your career goals and what you're hoping to achieve.
Yes, and to add on to that, I would also say if you are looking for a specific type of school, I would go ahead and also apply to one school that is kind of completely opposite of what you're looking for. Or if you're still not sure, apply to like 2 different types. I feel like that actually helped me figure out what I wanted to do. When I found out both of my acceptances, I knew which one I was more happy about. So that actually helped me make my decision. And we did have one question pop up. So what sites should we use for scholarships and how should we go about searching for them? Yes, that's a good question. All right, I keep talking, so I'll let someone else answer this question again. Who wants to answer?
April, you seemed very into it. I would love for you to answer it.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely looking at the schools that you apply for. If they have specific scholarship applications to fill out, those will be university specific. And then there's a bunch of resources out there that you can have access to. You shouldn't have to pay to apply to a scholarship. That's something to keep in mind. Scholarly is a great resource, FastWeb, College Board. If you're a North Carolina student, College Foundation of North Carolina. And as well, talk to your high school counselors. They are a wealth of knowledge and they will have a lot of great resources for you as well, especially if there's some local scholarships that your admissions counselors may not be aware of. So I would recommend that as well.
Thank you guys. So not to cut you off, but we are probably 30 seconds before the session ends. I just wanted to thank all of you guys for joining us, and for my co-presenters, thank you so much. I'm gonna leave the slide just as a last minute resort, just in case. And I believe Strive Scan is here. Okay, so yeah, thank you for joining us. Like I said, this will be available in a week from now if you want to touch base. And of course, this is our contact information if you have any specific questions about our specific institutions that we work for.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, thank you to our presenters. I think you did an amazing job. Just the last minute items, do not forget to do the survey. As you close this window, you'll receive a very short survey. So please make sure you insert the information so we can know how we're doing and ways we can improve. Also, again, be sure to sign up for additional sessions at our CACRAO website. And this recording will be available within the week for you to come back and revisit. Again, thank you to our panelists and thank you for our attendees. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.